thank you for joining us for this wonderful conversation that we're having to celebrate International Women's Day. I'm Oluwapelumi Amanda Adeola, a barrister at Trinity Chambers, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleagues who are going to introduce themselves. I'm going to start off with...
My name is Abby. I'm a pupil barrister at Trinity.
My name is Claire. I'm a family barrister here at Trinity.
My name's Kaura. I'm with the civil team and I've been with Trinity, I think, around a year.
That's wonderful. Thank you all for joining me. And we are celebrating International Women's Day as we do every year in Chambers. And in particular, we're all very keen about the theme this year, which is Give to Gain. What I'm going to be doing is having a conversation with my colleagues and asking them questions so that we can talk about what that theme means to all of us and how important it is for us to give, to be able to gain as women in the legal profession and generally. I'm going to start off with asking, when you hear of the theme Give to Gain, what does it mean to you personally in the legal profession? If I start with you, Abby.
I think it's sort of meaning giving back to other people and almost gaining from that. So I think you can gain a lot from speaking to other people and gain insight into their perspectives. So although you might be helping them with a point, you're also gaining from their perspective as well.
That's it. Thank you very much. And Claire?
I think it's about that. For me, it's also about perhaps giving guidance or giving help, and you are gaining the knowledge or the comfort that you are helping someone to advance their career.
Thank you. And Anu, your thoughts?
I agree with both of the comments that we made, but I suppose for me, just in terms of succession planning, not just necessarily in a corporate environment, but also as barristers for the next generation, paving the way forward to make sure that the next set of people coming through don't have the same obstacles that we have had to overcome, and also that we're leaving things in safe hands for them.
That is absolutely on point. I'm an advocate for mentoring, and whenever I've had discussions with my mentees and they've had a successful round at something and they say, well, what can we do to help? My answer is always make sure you do the same. Give back just as you have received. And that's a very important point to make. Now, if we're looking at your careers, because between all of us sitting here, let's not say how many years we've got of experience.
Please don't.
Can you share a moment where somebody gave something, whether it's their time or advocacy or opportunity to you that has essentially brought you to where you are right now? If I start off with Claire, because you've been doing this slightly longer than all of us, please.
Yeah, I'm probably going to give my age away as well by this. I had an experience a long time ago where I was at a garden party and Sherry Booth, QC as was then, was there. And I was, at that time, just doing my law degree. I wasn't a qualified barrister and I was way off becoming a qualified barrister. I was a salesperson selling electronic law reports. And we spoke and she talked to me about what I wanted to do, and it was the opening of their new chambers and it was a beautiful summer's day in London. And I said, I want to be a barrister and this is what I'm doing. And she gave me some really good, encouraging words of advice and said, you can do this and you are going to do it. And I can tell you believe in yourself. And we had a really good chat, and that stuck with me for a long time because I realized that someone gave their time to me just in a moment, just when they should have been drinking wine at a garden party along with her husband, Tony Blair. And she took the time to really encourage me, and that stuck with me.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it. Anu?
Nice bit of name dropping there. I don't think I can compete, actually. But I think around me, peers that have encouraged me to really just embrace the opportunity of cross-qualifying back to being a barrister. And the barristers within Chambers that have given up their time, that they didn't have to really, they're not forced to. I went down the route of cross-qualifying back, so I didn't officially have to do a pupillage, but chose to do some shadowing informally, and all the barristers that gave up their time to sit with me, you know, they were stressed. I know what it's like now, just being on your feet and then you're exhausted, and still, you know, at lunchtime you're having to babysit the person that's coming in to learn from them, but they do that so graciously and give you that time and go through the papers with you. It's not an easy task. And the fact that they're doing that and with so much encouragement really to make sure that you do succeed. There's not that competition there. Everyone here is trying to help you move on to that next step as well and help your career progress to the next level, which is really just so overwhelmingly kind for people to give up time. Time is precious.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Abby?
Yeah, I think when I was sort of thinking about this question in preparation, I really reflected on it. And actually at uni, when I was doing my first mock trial competition, it was Baroness Hale. She came to judge the mooting competition, and she gave really sort of good words of encouragement, saying, you know, you did really well, you can absolutely do this, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And I'd met her a few years later, and she was like, see, you're doing it, you are doing fine, I told you. And she'd remembered who I was, which I couldn't believe. I was like, oh my God, you remember who I am. But yeah, I think it's just, I've been really lucky with a lot of people around me being able to say, you know, you can do it, don't be told that you can't. And I think just having those encouraging words is really helpful. I think especially being a pupil, the amount of people at Chambers in particular who are so willing to take the time and really explain things. If I have queries about anything, they're always willing to help, and I'm so grateful for that.
I think this is one of the things that we're very lucky with in Chambers, that we've got such incredible women and men, so let's not sideline the men, who are here to support. But mine would be exactly the same as Anu, you know, taking that decision to transfer and being absolutely petrified of it. I chewed Claire's ear off, Kossa, you know, Helen Hogburn, everybody just being there to pick up the phone to say, you've got this, don't worry about it. And just to ease that worry. I know the worry doesn't go away, but you know that you've got people who literally have your back. And that is wonderful, and giving you that encouragement to know that you can do it. So I'm grateful that we have such support in Chambers. The other question that I have for you all is, what does giving look like in practical terms for barristers, senior partners, judges, you know, in-house counsels, and generally policymakers? What do you say giving back looks like?
I think it's empowering people, isn't it, to take that next step. So giving them the knowledge and the tools to be able to do that, you know, in the form of either mentoring or coaching or training. So, you know, the schemes that are available for judges now to widen the scope of what the demographic would be in terms of recruitment now. And really putting those measures in place to be able to make sure that the next generation is able and equipped to do so is the most important thing. But and more personally as well, again, I've already said about the time element, but just making sure that it's a realistic picture as well. We're not painting this idyllic image, and we're letting people know going in with their eyes opening what they're getting themselves in for. It's not easy. And I think I was put off very much so when I first qualified as a barrister, which is I'm giving my age away now, in 2000. And I think I was told at that time, you're going to find it really difficult. You're not going to be able to have a family life. It's going to be very difficult to raise children. And it put me off. And that's why part of the reason I became a solicitor, because of that regular paycheck and maternity pay. Whereas I think now, realistically, you can show that it is possible and these things can be done. There are measures in place, and there's much more mechanisms to be able to protect people in that sort of situation to make sure they can succeed.
Yeah, thank you. Claire?
I think it's about giving the opportunity to people, giving them the space to be able to find what they're good at as well, because I think it's possible to get pigeonholed into doing one particular thing in this job, and you know, you do family law or you do criminal law. I think when people are starting off, they perhaps don't know what it is that they want to do or what they're best at. So it's giving opportunity, giving them the space to find out what their particular skills are. I know I benefited from having the opportunity to understand that actually a particular aspect of law was more suited to my personality and the kind of things I liked. But I could have followed the pack and where I was being led, because that would have been easier. But I was given the opportunity to see that there were other things out there. So I think opportunity is really important.
Absolutely. And Abby?
Yeah, I think I would sort of echo what you both have said. And I think it's about giving the time and the truthful answers to what you are actually getting into. And I think sort of reflecting on it, it's definitely the time that's been the most valuable. And that's actually, now I'm sort of getting into being a barrister, sort of, obviously I'm quite junior compared to you guys here. But I think I'm realising that time is actually really precious. And if people can give you the time, then that is so valuable. And it's also sort of the comfortability to be able to ask the questions that perhaps you are unsure of asking. And having those relationships is really important.
And that happens even when you get more senior.
More important, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And even now, within Chambers, there will be people that I will ring up and I will say, have you come across this before? Because you're always learning. You're always finding situations that you haven't come across before, or things that you just want to check your thinking on.
Yeah.
And being in a Chambers like this, where we've got friends and colleagues who are open and their doors are always open to us coming along and speaking to them, it really helps you feel that you can always, it's a give and receive both ways.
I think it's been really amazing to me knowing that barristers are really busy people, but everyone is so willing to give me the time. And that spans from questions of law to questions of personal life and like dealing with finances, for example, because that's a whole new world to me as well. But I just think everyone is so busy, but everyone is so willing to give the time and give the real advice, and that's exactly what you need.
But this is what we were talking about earlier on about, opportunities and time and mentoring not being formal. And, I said whenever I ring Claire, for example, she could be making dinner and we're having a mentoring session. I could be ironing when I'm talking to my mentees. I was talking to my mentor the other day and she was driving, and we arranged the mentoring session to be during the 1 hour drive that she was having to wherever she was going. It's people being willing to give that time, even though it's eating into, possibly she would have liked a quiet drive, but she sought
grab
it
it where
fit.
you can.
Exactly. to have that conversation.
I think you really have to,
Yeah.
I think just being honest with what time you do have there and your own availability, and making sure that time matters, and that is that quality time, isn't it? So
Yes.
I know this week I'm in the middle of a busy hearing. I've dropped all other commitments and I know I can't give that time in the way that I would like to. So for those conversations, I would then push them until I know I'm able to give them the full attention that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just touched on mentoring a few seconds ago. So again, going back to the fact that you have all achieved so much in your careers, and Abby, I know you're still junior, but you have achieved so much. Getting pupillage is already, it's a struggle in itself, and you are here and you'll be on your feet, from next month. We're all so proud of you. What are you all intentionally giving to the next generation of women lawyers?
Well, I think it's a mixture of things for me. I take people who are doing mini pupillages and give them the opportunity to spend time with me and sort of spend days out in court and see how that is. I also have opportunities to speak to groups of people. This last week, in fact yesterday, I went to my old school, so that I opened their careers week by doing a whole week school assembly about what it means to be a barrister. And I talked to them about the skills that they're going to need. And I could see these little faces, boys and girls, all ages from 5 up to 11, looking at me like they'd never seen anyone wearing a wig and a gown before. And they were rapt by what I was saying. And I just spoke to them about what skills were important as a barrister, and explained that 45 years ago I'd been sitting where they were. And I didn't know what a barrister was then, and nobody had ever talked to me about that as a career possibility. And I talked to them about the fact that if they have these particular skills and that they like talking to people and they like doing what's right and they're confident, that they could also be barristers. I then did a workshop with the Year 6s where we did mock trials. And I went around each of the Year 6 classrooms and we just did a little scenario, and some of them were barristers, some of them were witnesses, some of them were the judge and the others were the jury. And they were excellent, but they had such good questions, and a lot of them had really good insights about what they thought about being a barrister, and that those views were changing from experiencing that. So I think giving that level of insight to young people coming through is really important, because it gives them the insight that they wouldn't have from perhaps watching television. I know certainly when I grew up, I didn't think it was something that I could achieve, because somebody coming from the background I came from, it wasn't something that people did. But you realise from spending more time that it's much more diverse than you think. And I want those children to realise that they too can get there if they possess those skills.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have seen the pictures and it's just incredible. So well done, and congratulations to you for going back to your old school. I'm sure that was a full circle moment for you.
It was good fun.
Good. Anu, what about you?
That is really important. I mean, I did some lecturing last year, and some of the students on the LPC that I was teaching, they've got back in touch as well for a bit of career advice. And then my daughter's a teenager now, so she's 17 and she's at the point where she's starting her A-levels, but they're also thinking about their work experience, and a few of her friends want to go into law, and I've helped arrange placements for them and things like that. So those sort of connections that I can make just because I've maintained a professional network, not just of barristers. So, and part of the transition coming to Trinity was because I'd maintained those professional networks with barristers that I'd instructed years ago. And then now conversely, I'm still in touch with a lot of solicitors that I've either worked with or worked against, but we've all kept, cordial relationships, and I've become good friends with a lot of them. So I've been able to use those networks to help that next generation, again, in terms of career progression. And I'll often get just random requests actually from LinkedIn, and people will contact me and saying, can I just bend your ear? I'm always willing to have a conversation again when I can fit it in, just to be able to sort of give them a bit of off-the-record advice over what their next career step might be as well, and where can I direct them to. If I can't give them the information, can I put them in touch with someone that might be able to help? And it's lovely to see like my old colleagues and people that I used to manage as well doing so well, and they still keep in touch and ask for advice occasionally, so that's quite nice.
Oh, that's amazing. And you, Abby?
I think during university I was really, really grateful for a few people sort of in the years above me who would always take the time and offer me advice about the profession, how to get there, and sort of the practical steps of applying for scholarships and pupillage and the bar course, etc. And I'm really keen to be that person for as many people as I can before. And I do regret that at times, because there's a lot of people who sort of come to me for advice, and I think I don't want to say no to people. I want to be able to help as much as I can. But there's a few who I sort of really closely mentor, and then there's some who I sort of less regularly than others. But I think at the junior end, it's quite important to have that mentor, because I think sometimes you can look at the more senior barristers at Chambers and think, oh, that's so unattainable to me, especially if you're applying for pupillage. Whereas if you've got someone who's at the more junior end, you think, oh, actually, maybe I could do it. How did you do it? And can you actually give some practical advice? So I always try to do that as much as I can. And I also have been back to my sixth form to give a talk on Careers Week, which was quite strange actually, to go back and offer some advice. And I try to be as honest as possible just about how difficult it can be, and especially the financial strain that it can be. And I said I was really lucky that I got a scholarship, and if I didn't have the scholarship, I wouldn't be here. And I'm really open about that, and always been really open about my own struggles in my personal life that I've gone through. And I think it's important that people recognise that and are honest about it, because it's not easy. And I think we all sat here know that it's not easy. We've all had our own journeys. I think just being honest and sort of accepting that and be willing to share your advice is really, really useful.
I mean, I've always grown up seeing my parents give back. No matter how little that they had, they always gave back. And that was something that was instilled in me. As Anu said, you want the next generation to not have to experience what you experienced. So you try and help as much as you can. So I do a lot of mentoring. I try to have at least 4 mentees a year. And I also collect mentors. I have so many, as I call myself, the mentor collector. I've got so many throughout my career for different aspects of my life. And it is important to be able to do that, because again, it's creating that belief in yourself that you can do this because somebody else has done it before you, and they're there to give you that, tell you how it was for them realistically, as you say, be honest about the journey, but then also say, these are the things that I did or could have done to have made it slightly easier for myself, but you can also do that. So yes, I think that's we all seem to be doing the same thing, just to make sure that we're paving the way for the next generation of women lawyers, and I'm glad that we're able to do that. What would you say then is the difference between advising somebody and actually opening a door for them? If I start, I'm looking at Anu, so I'll start with you.
I feel like you're looking at me. So I think they're 2 very different things, aren't they? So I think if you can open a door for them in a legitimate way, and it's structured, if necessary, without it's very difficult, isn't it? Because you want to do a favour to someone, but you've got to make sure that that is not to the detriment of someone else, and they're not being given an unfair advantage. So, the benefit of your own experience to that person from a personal perspective, or surroundings that you've seen, or circumstances that then you can draw upon from your own personal knowledge, and then opening a door to someone if you're able to, and it's appropriate to do so, is a different matter altogether. But again, just making sure you're not involved in that nepotism or that the game playing or the politics that goes alongside that, to ensure that it's done fairly and that everyone's given equal opportunity to be able to succeed and have the same opportunities that you might have been given, or you might wish to have had given to you in those circumstances. I think it's a fine line. You've got to be careful because you can overstep, I think, sometimes. And again, that wouldn't be fair on the person that doesn't necessarily have that same relationship with someone like us to be able to get access. So how can you open the door, not necessarily just to people we know? How can we make ourselves accessible to not strangers in that sense, but other people that wouldn't necessarily have those same opportunities to have those contacts and those, because a lot of it is who you know. We know that from personal experience, and to be realistic, I think I wasn't really wise to that when I was growing up. You don't, not a case of using personal contacts, but you don't realise the benefit of maintaining those professional relationships and personal relationships with people. But again, just not taking advantage of that to the detriment of someone else.
It has to be on merit, and
Yes,
that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you can open a door for somebody, but you can't get them the job or the position. And I had an experience where I had a girl who was in the second year, I think, of a law degree, and she did a mini pupillage with me. And we stayed in contact, and then I heard about an opportunity where somebody was looking for a paralegal at a law firm. And they said, do you know anybody? We're desperate for somebody to come along. And I thought of this girl, and I knew she was very capable and she was able to do the job, but I didn't get her the job. I just matched them together. So I think opening doors is about matching people. And if you know that somebody is capable and somebody else is looking for someone to do that job, putting them together and saying, hey, why don't you think about applying? And this is this person, and I think she was very good and she got the job and apparently is an asset to them. So that's the difference, I think, between just advising and opening doors.
Yeah, that's right. Abby, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think I would agree with what you've both said. I think I probably can't offer too much in terms of, I can't take a mini pupil, for example, because I am a pupil. But I think, it's about making sure you're doing it in a fair way. And I mean, I always give the advice that if you don't ask, you don't get, mainly because that's what my great grandma always said.
Well, that's my motto, shy birds.
I was just going to say, you have to say the northeastern way.
So I'm not from up here, and it's showing, isn't it? But it's true, and I've had experiences where I've just messaged people on LinkedIn and just said, I'm really intrigued by your journey, and I'd love to just have a conversation with you about it. And you never know what can come from that. And I know I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask for my advice, and I think, do you know what, actually, I really respect the confidence it takes to do that. And then I'm more inclined to actually take the time to answer. So I think that's also opening doors, because it's opening doors to opportunities that you might not have had if you don't ask for them.
Do you think the social aspect has helped? So we're going to networking events
100%.
with other members of Chambers. I know I've seen you at a few that we've been to together. And do you think that helps you in those situations as well, where you're in a more informal environment?
100%. I think the bar can feel really intimidating. And I know when I was sort of starting out and trying to get experience, I was so intimidated. And I thought, oh God, I can't go and speak to a barrister. That's terrifying. But actually, I think in the more relaxed networking environments, you realise, oh, actually, barristers are just normal people, and we are just normal people. And I think that can really help with building those connections. Because I know I didn't really have any connections to the industry sort of before I sort of went to uni. And it is about sort of building those for yourself and showing people that it is important to build those relationships and maintain them. Because there's a difference between just having the connections and actually maintaining them and putting work into the relationship, and not just asking questions all the time, but actually being willing to give back too. Like, relationships go both ways. And I think that's really important to tell people, if you're going to build your network, make sure it's equal and you're giving back too.
Yeah. Now, merit, as you all said, is very important. But it's also being willing to call somebody's name in, circumstances where you think they deserve it and they need that opportunity. So many opportunities came my way because somebody, said my name. And it's important that we are able to do that for each other as women and not see each other as competition. So if there is something that you cannot do and you feel like somebody else can, just say, oh, by the way, this person can do it, and just leave it at that, rather than, not, shall I say, keeping that back in that sense. So let's go to our male allies then. How do we encourage men in the profession to see themselves as participants in the give to gain? I'll come to Claire because I'm looking at you first.
I think it is changing. I think men are more aware that they have a role to play in this. I saw a video clip recently of Andy Murray doing a similar thing, where he was talking about, he was being interviewed about a male tennis player who'd achieved something great. And the interviewer said to him, oh, he's the first player to do this. And Andy Murray quickly went, first male player. And it really startled the interviewer, because he just didn't know how to deal with it. And he went, sorry, he said, first male player. Various women have done this before. And so it's about being an advocate for that, and for men realizing that they're not threatened by women, that we are equal, sometimes more than, in terms of what we do, and that they get it. And I think seeing examples in sports and other things like that makes men realize that it isn't a threat to be able to promote women. And actually, you're going to get a lot more respect from women by being an advocate for that than you are by just trying to hold on to the male privilege. I think the give to gain really, means a lot. My respect for Andy Murray went through the roof when I saw those videos. So
absolutely.
Thank you. I think it is definitely shifting. And sort of, I think a lot more men are taking the time to actually try to understand and sort of self-reflect a little bit about what they can do to improve. I think that is really important. And like you were saying about giving the opportunities to someone who you think can do it better if you can't, I think that men should be doing that too for women, being like, actually, I could do it, but I'm quite busy, so perhaps I'll hand it over and someone else can do it instead. And I think that's really important, and sort of stepping back and being able to reflect is like the starting point, really.
Anu?
I think that the profession itself is looking at disparity, isn't it, in terms of pay and circumstances and opportunities that are being afforded to females and also ethnic minorities. So I think that's really positive. But and I think the conversations now regarding women's health are really important. And I'm not embarrassed to say it, I'm of that age. We're all we're going to hit it at some point, and sort of late 40s. Conversations now, it was unheard of when I was in my 20s, anyone discussing perimenopause or women's health. And I think just that understanding and hearing men having those conversations now and then be more willing and receptive to understanding the female psyche is really positive, rather than having a hushed conversation and painting a negative picture of women of a certain age being washed out at that time of their profession, or the fact that people can be brought in their sort of early 20s, late 30s. Are they going to be stigmatised on the basis that they're going to be only there for a short period of time and then having kids and not being back in the workforce for a long period of time? So again, those conversations are more positive now. Although realistically, it pains me to say this, but I think you can, what's the saying? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yeah. So I think if someone is receptive to that conversation, then they will be receptive to it. If they've either got that conscious or subconscious bias, that's not going to go away. But what we can do as women, it's not our duty, but I think there is an educating piece that we can be part of. I think having these conversations helps with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
No, I agree. I mean, we're lucky, we have a lot of male allies, but there's still a lot more work to be done. I think from the perspective of leadership and women being led in our profession. We need a lot more of that. If you have a lot of men leading big cases, they can always bring women on as a junior, or women leading the cases and having women juniors. And we can only do that if we continue to have these conversations, because as you say, Claire, women are capable, and even far more capable in some circumstances.
We're multitaskers.
Exactly. That's it. So can you share with me then one practical action every lawyer in this room could take this year to advance another woman's career?
I feel like time is, again, so valuable, but carving out that time to be able to do things like this, quite frankly, you know, it's something that, you know, you've got a busy week and you're committed to it, and then you're thinking, oh God, you know, how am I going to fit it in? But actually, this is very important to me, having these conversations and making sure you maintain that momentum and not let it die a death, really. And again, just having the opportunity now that I've been with Trinity for over a year to be allowed to pupils to shadow me. It's quite intimidating as well, having someone watching you in that situation. So I know you feel intimidated by us, but it's equally not so stressful, but you know,
you've got to make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, you leave
no pressure, guys. We are judging everything.
Yeah,
oh, I know.
But you leave yourself quite vulnerable in that situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, paving that way forward and allowing people to watch you and opening yourself up to that is really important, giving opportunities to do that. And sharing work out, and like you said, giving other people opportunities. Sometimes I think someone else might be more suited to a piece of work as well, not hogging it for yourself, and sharing that out between your colleagues, be it female or male, is important. You know, no, not necessarily limitations, but be the best at what you can do, and then give someone else that opportunity to be able to shine also. You don't need to put yourself under a bushel to let someone shine.
This is a conversation we have with Claire all the time. She goes, do you want to do some children work? No. I'll take the children work. You can have the finance work.
It's about, I think for me, it's paying it forward.
Yes.
It's looking at that. And if you are given an opportunity yourself to give that back, to pay it forward to other people. I'm going to be doing, I think, another talk to my senior school about what it means to be a barrister. And I've actually proffered myself and, you know, offered to do that on the back of doing it for the junior school. And I think that is a really important thing about education and about shining the light on opportunities. Obviously, when we get people in for mini pupilages, they already know this is probably what they want to do. But I think we can develop that at a much earlier age and realize, make people, young girls realize, hey, look, there's somebody who looks like me and they're wearing a wig and a gown, and maybe that's something I could actually do because I like talking in front of people and I'm confident and I think I've got thoughts and ideas. So it's inspiring being a role model, I think, to a lot of people.
Abby?
Yeah, I think at the moment I'm quite lucky that I don't have my own caseload yet. Ask me again in a month. I've got some time that I do carve out to speak to people and to speak to my mentees, and I think it's just making sure it's a priority, like you were saying, like make it a priority, actually carve out the time and do it with intention, because I think it is really important to do it with intention. And I know some of my friends are, fingers crossed, hoping to be starting pupillage at the end of the year. And I would quite like to be able to help them with what pupillage actually looks like, because I think that's a whole other thing that no one really knows until you're doing it. I thought I was really prepared for pupillage, but it's really not what you think it is. And there are a lot more different challenges to what I thought they'd be. And I found some things easier than others. So I think just being able to carve out the time and do it with intention is definitely what I plan to do in the coming year.
Thank you. One final question then for all of you. So if we all leave this room then this evening, remembering one truth about Give to Gain, what would you say it should be? And I'll start with Anu.
The truth, I think we've already touched on this as well, is paying it forward, not hogging everything for yourself, just making sure that you do pave that way for the next generation forward. It's so important to me because I think Claire, you touched on it, and you might have mentioned it also, both of you. It's really important that people see that people that look like us, and you know, again, late 40s, Asian woman in the north, succeeding and having all those dreams fulfilled that I was potentially was told years and years ago would be very difficult or impossible to achieve as well, put off from those aspirations. And I don't want anyone else to feel like they can't do that. So again, if they've got the ability, encourage them to do so, help them find their own path. And I think for me, it's been a role model to my own daughter, and making her feel like there's nothing that she can't achieve if she puts her mind to it, and that hard work does pay off. And it doesn't cost anything to be kind to people and nice to people. And actually that's the best way, honey is the best sweetener rather than anything else. And maintaining those relationships and creating, being a professional, but also being respected is really important. And teaching the next generation that is what I deem to be appropriate behaviour, not necessarily taking an aggressive stamp and having to walk over people to get what you want. That's really important to me.
Thank you.
I think for me it's encouraging people and encouraging the next generation and encouraging other lawyers, encouraging those who are starting out, encouraging people who are despondent about where their career is going, and also people who aspire to do what we do. I'll never forget, and I think in terms of where it encouraged me, so much as what I said about Sherry Booth encouraged me, I also had the opposite experience when I was doing my law degree. I met numerous barristers when I was selling to them, and I remember one guy, quite old, spoke to me and he said, and what do you do? And I said, I'm doing a law degree and I'm going to be a barrister. And he went, no, what you mean is you want to be a barrister.
I think I was against him not long ago.
And that inspired me more than probably any positive words, because I thought, no, I am going to do it.
Yes.
And those words of encouragement, however they come, are really important. And I think we all need to encourage each other, and we need to encourage others to be able to achieve what they want to achieve.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. And Abby?
Yeah, I think just being intentional with the time you take to mentor people and being realistic with the advice you give, because I think that the advice has been realistic has what stuck with me the most. And I think that's just all we can do, is be honest with people and say, well, look, this is the problems that I face, and this is how I solved it, or this is how I wish I'd solved it upon reflection. And just being honest and truthful and sharing the true horrible reality, if that's what it is, because I think we sort of owe it to each other to help each other and learn from each other. I feel like I can learn so much from you guys and from a lot of the women at the bar, and I want to learn, and I think a lot of people do want to learn, so we need to be intentional with the time and the advice that we do give.
Well, thank you all very much for giving your time to sit with me to talk about this International Women's Day theme, which is very important and has been very insightful. And thank you for joining us. I will end with a saying that my lovely father likes to share with us. I'm going to say it in English and translate it. He would often say, many species of birds fly in the sky, but they never collide. That tells you that all of us can thrive if we support and encourage each other. There's no reason for us to trample over each other, because there is enough room for us to grow. So if there's one thing you take away from our conversation this evening, is that there's so much to gain from giving, and giving doesn't take anything away from you. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for joining us.